live from the Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California. Larry Kudlow watching the president step by step, bit by bit. He is making America great again through jobs and investment.
So, Dagan, what are they going to call this? Is it going to be Nippon U.S. Steel or U.S. Steel Nippon or Nippon U.S. or I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm glad they did the deal. I've always thought they should do the deal because U.S. Steel would have gone under and nobody else really could have bailed them out. And by the way, I had this thought. I don't know anything that nobody else knows. I'm just thinking this deal, which is a reversal of what a lot of people in the Trump administration initially said, no, we can't do that. We don't want foreigners. Is this deal going to be prelude to a Japanese trade deal, which is coming up at the G7 meeting?
And I believe, Larry,
what does A lead to B?
Right. I believe that the trade negotiators from Japan met with Secretary Bessent and Secretary Lutnick today at the White House.
I think it'd be really good. I mean, first of all, I really want to see trade deals. I mean, I think the president's right. There's unfair trading practices. We have to rebalance everything. We have to open markets that have been closed to us from tariffs or, non-tariff regulatory barriers. Japan is always a tough one, by the way. I negotiated in the first term. We did make a small deal. Tariffs, yes, but their regulations are very hard. Anyway, make a deal with Japan, be terrific, and then come right back and make a deal with India. That would be terrific. And then make a deal with Vietnam. That would be terrific. Yeah. So you're not only opening up markets, but you're circling China.
By the way,
I kind of like all that stuff. I like the sound of this.
Larry, he just announced, we're getting word now that he just announced he's doubling the tariffs on steel to 50%. Again, he's just, you never know what you're going to get from Donald Trump.
Well, that's interesting. We'll have to see when, how, where, and why. So we'll see. I mean, he's trying hard to protect steel, obviously. I don't know. I'll have to find out more about that doubling of the tariff.
Yeah. By the way, the trade deficits, we always question why they were necessarily put in a lot of these trade deals as an excuse for the high tariffs that we have. You're in Ronald Reagan territory right now. Ronald Reagan had trade deficits throughout his term, as there's two terms as president, partly because of the King dollar. King dollar was so strong we could buy a lot of cheap goods from overseas. Do you think it's a good idea for them to continue the focus on trade deficits as an excuse for some of these high tariffs?
No, I've never liked that logic.
Yeah.
And I've tried for more or less 10 years to persuade President Trump that the trade deficits look, if America grows like it did under Reagan and like it did in Trump's first term, if these tax cuts go through and deregulation goes through, we're going to start growing again at 3% plus, okay? We'd be the fastest growing economy in the world by far, okay? But that means because of our size and the velocity of our growth, that we're going to be importing consumer goods, we're going to be importing capital goods, business goods, and there's no way around it. The deficit's going to get larger, but the cash, the dollars that go out, come back in, they recirculate in. I mean, you'll have a capital surplus even while you have a trade deficit. They're financing our bonds, for example, or they'll be using the cash to build factories and get a very low tax rate and an immediate expensing write-offs. So, but I've always failed on that score. So I agree with Trump about market opening, okay? And I think his reciprocity idea is first rate. You know, I think at his heart and soul and core, he is a free trader. He wants to use reciprocity to bring tariffs down and bring other barriers down. That's the way he's always seen that story. The question, of course, is getting from here to there, and he's a very good negotiator, and I support the policy. But I didn't like the idea of the worry about trade deficits. I didn't like the reciprocal trade deficit charge-offs, you know, that 3-4 page packet. I didn't like that at all. I thought that was poorly considered and poorly constructed.
Larry, moving on to this, President Trump today doubling down on freezing money for Ivy League snob schools and then redirecting those dollars to the real future of America. Listen to this.
I'd like to see the money go to trade schools, where people learn how to fix motors and engines, where people learn how to build rocket ships. Because, you know, somebody has to build those rocket ships. Because you could take $5 billion plus hundreds of billions more, which is what's spent, and you could have the greatest trade school system anywhere in the world.
Love the idea. I just wish that they would cut off student loans and the federal government and just sever those two, but a girl can dream.
A girl can dream. I kind of like this idea.
Yeah.
If Harvard won't play ball, and apparently they won't, they're very arrogant, they won't get rid of anti-Semitism, they won't agree to, outside auditors of what they're doing, DEI, violating civil rights acts left and right. Sure, keep the cash, take the grants away, distribute it to trade schools, community colleges, and so forth. I like that idea a lot. It's not going to be limited to Harvard. You've got a lot of elite institutions, as both of you well know, and we've all been to those schools. If they don't play ball, if they don't observe civil rights, if they won't get rid of anti-Semitism, if they won't get rid of DEI, which is the progenitor of anti-Semitism, then heck with it. No money. No money. You know, Hillsdale College in the Midwest,
oh, yeah,
perfectly good school. They don't take a nickel. They don't take a nickel from Uncle Sam. And by the way, that's a school that's never had any problems with anti-Semitism. It's a free thinking school. It's a free market-oriented school. Hillsdale is probably a model here. But anyway, Mr. Trump's on the right track here. I like what he's saying.
By the way, you talked about the power of growth, and Reagan knew that power so well, and his tax cuts proved it. The Fed's deficit under Reagan peaked out at about 6% of GDP when he first came in 1983, the first years. By 1987, it had fallen to 3.2%. So it was cut in half by the power of growth. Could the same thing happen with Donald Trump if he gets his tax cuts?
Yeah, sure. Listen, growth solves a lot of problems. Growth solves a lot of problems. A rising tide lifts all boats. People are happier. These budget numbers improve. I want, we had a panel on the show today with Bill Cassidy, Senator Cassidy from the Finance Committee, Jason Smith. I said, guys, you scored it at 2.6 growth, which is okay. I mean, the CBO is at 1.8, perpetual doom and gloom. 2.6 is good. 3% is better. The difference between 3 and 1.8% is about $4 trillion plus in tax revenues, and the demand for federal assistance, the demand for welfare, more people working, they don't need all these federal handouts. You'll get rid of the deficit. You'll reduce the debt share of GDP. All things good. All things good. But don't forget this. I know I'm talking to Dagan. She's a big deficit and debt hawk. I understand that, and I love Dagan. But here's the thing. We have 28 trillion of publicly held debt, government debt. Okay, bad number. I agree. It's 100% of GDP. But on the other hand, households, right, individuals have 168 trillion. All right? That's stocks, bonds, real estate, cash, money market funds, you name it. So I'm just saying privately held wealth, and that doesn't include federal wealth, doesn't include federal lands or anything like that. Privately held wealth, almost 170 trillion, dwarfs the 28 trillion of publicly held debt, okay? I'm not making an excuse for spending. Don't get me wrong. I want smaller government too. But we shouldn't panic about this story. I mean, it's 6 times. Private wealth is 6 times the debt burden. And by the way, public lands, which will be used by the Trump administration, they will commercialize some of them. There'll be royalties that'll flow into the government coffers. I'm not crazy about it, but yeah, growth solves a lot of problems. Reagan loved growth and prosperity. Trump loves growth and prosperity.
Yep.
enjoy your time out there.
I'm here in the Reagan Library.
Yeah.
The vibes are full. I walk around here, this outdoor terrace. Everyone is talking growth. Every single buddy. People sitting around talking about prosperity. I can hear them. They're all talking about how you'll get more revenues from growth. It's the most sophisticated audience you've ever heard. All these people, although I think a lot of them have gone home. The tables are kind of empty.
No.
But before they went home, it was fantastic.
Jamie Dimon in Maria Bartiromo's interview with him literally stole your growth message word for word. I was like,
Yes.
the guy is now a card-carrying
Yes.
Republican. And Larry, you're closing out the inaugural Reagan Economic Forum tonight, moderating a powerhouse panel.
Wow.
Michael Falkender, Steve Mnuchin, Paul Ryan, and Mark Uyeda. Hopefully I said his name right. The focus, the moral imperative of economic growth, and our viewers can catch the whole thing live tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox Nation. Dear sir, thank you so much.
Safe travels,
Kudlow.
Larry.
Thank you, kids. Appreciate it very much.
See you.